Hello everybody and welcome back to another video series here. Today, before we get started, you might notice that there's something new here, and that's going to be this microphone right in front of me. So ideally, we've had some sound, in the past we've had some sound issues, and ideally I would like to fix that. And so I thought, why not just get an external microphone that will help, clear up any sound issues. So ideally what's going to happen is that, you won't hear any background noise, you won't hear any humming, and things like that. So things that are happening right outside the house here won't affect what you are hearing. You won't hear the clicking of the mouse. You won't hear the clicking of the keyboard or anything like that. So that's going to be our goal for this microphone here, is that we're going to make the sound quality and the sound experience much better for you viewers, and hopefully you can enjoy the content more and make it a little bit more immersive and less distracting. So now that we got the introduction there out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the deck that we have in front of us here. So before we got into another competitive league, I wanted to send this kind of do a test run with this microphone, and so I was going to do that with a deck that's a bit more casual, but in my opinion is still very powerful and very competitive in terms of being a meta call for a certain metagame, right? So what we have in front of us here is blue-white Emeria Control, which is a deck that is designed to play the long game. Essentially, we want to kind of clear the board, answer creatures, gum up the ground with all of our creatures, and we don't honestly care if any of our creatures die, because we have cards like Sun Titan to recur them. We have essentially Emeria the Sky Ruin, which, if you're not familiar with the card, it's this card right here. It's that at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 7 or more planes, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So essentially, we play this long game, gain some life with cards like Lone Missionary, block a bunch with Wall of Omens, and then we also have Gideon of the Trials, we have Court Hussar, all these different cards that come together to kind of prolong the game, find answers we need, especially at this 4-drop slot. We have Supreme Verdicts and Wrath of Gods to keep clearing the board, and then we have Sun Titans to recur all the creatures that might have died in the past, and not even just creatures. It gets any permanent with 3 CMC or less back, so you can even get a Spreading Seas that got blown up, maybe by an Oblivion Stone, or a Nature's Claim, or an Abrupt Decay. You can get back Gideon of the Trials if it saved you some life and then it just died, and so you have Gideon of the Trials plus Sun Titan. You have Detention Spheres to clear up the board, so you have all these really nice and powerful 3-drop permanents that you can get back with Sun Titan. And then you prolong the game so much, you get to your 8th land. Hopefully you've been hitting planes. You have all planes as your lands in play other than Emeria by turn 8, and suddenly you're recurring all these creatures back from the yard, and fair creature decks just have no way to come back from this, really. I played a few testing matches against was it Dredge even, okay? And Dredge just could not handle this recursion engine, because yeah, they're presenting a bunch of creatures on the board and they have conflagrates, but we're gaining so much life, we're bringing creatures back every turn, we can clear the board with Supreme Verdict. Eventually they just run out of things to do. So that's what I really like about this deck, is that even kind of the unfair creature decks have a really hard time getting through our defenses. So it's also a very grindy deck, which means that you can go toe-to-toe with some of the control or mid-range decks in the format, like Jund, Mardu Pyromancer, Jeskai Control, Blue-White Control. There's a lot of things going on here that can help you win games, okay? And that's what's really nice about Blue-White Emeria, is that you play this long game, you grind your opponent out, and then you win with a bunch of Sun Titans, or you win with a bunch of Lone Missionaries, right? There's a lot of things going on in this deck here that give you multiple angles of attack, and that's what's really nice to have. And so this deck list that I have here, I made a few tweaks, but it's almost 98% from a user from MTG Salvation Forums by the name of Fincone. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So all credit goes to them. They recently did well with it at a tournament. They went like 6-2 as far as I recall, which is really nice record for a deck that's really under the radar, right? No one really plays this deck. So there's traditional blue-white control, and then there's even traditional blue-white mid-range, and then you have Emeria, blue-white Emeria with Sun Titans and recursion and Emeria the Sky Ruin. And so It's a deck that I played with a little bit in the past with a red splash with Saheeli for the combo, but the blue-white version is just way more streamlined. It has a way more consistent game plan, and it's just like none of your cards are really ever dead. Whereas in the in the red splash for Saheeli Rai, even though you have kind of that backdoor kind of infinite combo that you just get people sometimes in games you shouldn't, there's just as many games where you're sitting with like 2 or 3 Saheelis in hand, cards that don't do anything in certain matchups, and then you just get steamrolled, right? So I really like this more consistent game plan with a very powerful what's the word I'm looking for? Mana denial strategy in the form of Spreading Seas, Field of Ruins, even have a Ghost Quarter in here, and then a Crucible of Worlds. And so the whole deck is really just designed to kind of attack your opponent from multiple angles. If Mana Denial works for the matchup, you use Mana Denial. But if it doesn't work, your Mana Denial is really kind of almost like a fetch land, which is Field of Ruin, or a Spreading Seas, which is a cantrip to hit your 3rd land drops, or your 3 drops, or your 4 drops, or you keep going, you keep cycling. So the Mana Denial is not, it's almost like incidental, you know what I mean? It's like we want to be playing these cards anyways, but sometimes we just get our opponents. And that's what's really sweet. So, in terms of sideboarding, not much going on here. We have the 4th Lone Missionary for the burn matchup. We have 2 Stony, 2 Damping Sphere for the artifact / combo / Tron decks of the format, 2 Celestial Purge because I really Mardu is really big in the format, and Jund is also there in some capacity. So being able to exile Lilianas, their confidants, Blood Moons, even though Blood Moon's not great against a 7 basic deck, we still have Emeria the Sky Rune, which we definitely need to win. And also I like Celestial Purge against Leyline of the Void, which has been a really problematic card for me in my testing. So Leyline of the Void gets completely shut off by Celestial Purge. Now obviously the cards you use before you get that that Leyline of the Void off the board will be exiled, but by the time you Celestial Purge the Leyline, hopefully then you can start rebuilding your graveyard, rebuilding your land base and Emeria the Sky Rune and get that going. You have 2 Settle the Wreckage because it's just a very powerful, hateful card against these go wide creature strategies that also might not care about going to the graveyard, so exiling them is really nice. We have 3 Negate, 2 Disdainful Stroke because you just need some counter magic in this blue deck. We're sometimes at the mercy of control decks because we play at sorcery speed and they control the whole tempo of the game. So Negates and Disdainful Strokes really help those matchups, but they also help the random combo matchups like Ad Nauseam. I really enjoy Negates against Ad Nauseam. Disdainful Stroke also is great there, and they're obviously great against Tron as well, which even though we have Damping Sphere, we have Sony Sounds, we have all these Field of Ruins and Spreading Seas, you would be surprised how resilient Tron is. Anybody who's played any amount of blue-white control knows that just because you're the best control deck to beat Tron doesn't mean that you consistently beat Tron. Tron will go above and beyond everything that you're doing, just hit natural 6-7 lands, and then you just get steamrolled, right? So having counter spells for once they hit those natural land drops, if you didn't present a fast enough clock with your Flickerous or Gideons, is really important. And then we have Sorcerer Spyglass. This card I've been really impressed with. You can just bring it in a lot of matchups, and you can also recur it with Sun Titan, which is really nice. And the fact that you can look at your opponent's hand means that even you don't have to bring it in blind. Like, oh, I know my opponent might be playing Liliana of the Veils, but I might look at their hand and be like, oh, but they have Liliana the Last Hope. Oh, they have Nahiri. Oh, they have just Raging Ravines or Celestial Colonnades in hand. Let me just name that, right? It's just a really nice answer to some really problematic cards that we might not be able to answer very easily, while also giving us a little bit of information about what our opponent is doing. Okay, so I think I covered everything I wanted to cover about this blue-white Emeria deck. It's a really fun deck. I really enjoy playing it. So what we're going to do is go through 3 matches in single queue competitive lobbies. So we're not going to take it into a modern competitive league again. First time we're using this microphone, so we're going to just try to ease our way into recording content with it, getting comfortable with it, getting comfortable with the positioning and layout here. But again, we are going to be paying tickets or / money to enter these lobbies. So ideally, we're going to run into competitive decks to test this deck in a competitive environment. And that's what I like doing. If this is the first time you're watching my videos, just know that I don't really like playing casual decks. While I might play decks that are maybe more off the radar. So when I called it casual before, I might have been kind of I misspoke there, because this deck's not casual. It's doing a lot of very competitive things. videos. So ideally what I like to do is test decks in a competitive environment with competitive cards and competitive mindset, right? We're not here to test, you know, quote unquote jank. This deck is not jank. This deck is, in my opinion, very powerful, but it's very powerful at doing certain things that don't always line up well in the metagame. So we're great against creature decks, not so great against non-creature decks, but the point is that we can still grind our way through kind of anything in the format as long as our opponent is also playing that type of game. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching that deck, and stay tuned for the first match coming up in just a second. I will see you guys soon. Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the first match here with blue-white Emeria control. Looks like we lost a die roll, but we have a pretty solid opener, right? We have an Emeria, we have 3 planes, we have Wall of Omens into D-Sphere or Flicker Wisp. I think that's a keep against most decks. Obviously it's a little bit slow on the draw, but this deck is very slow, so oh boy. And here we go. We're gonna get Tron from the get-go here, right? Yeah, let's go ahead and F6 that away. So we're not dead yet, right? But being on the draw plus not having a spreading seas on the first turn here is obviously pretty rough. And our opponent's gonna have turn 3 Tron. We're not gonna concede right away, obviously. Crucible would be nice paired with something, but I'm just gonna go ahead and play a planes here. We're gonna dig for something to do. So this is not quite panning out for us as we'd like. Our opponent is going to crack their expedition map. They're going to find their Tron land, and we're going to get carned. Hers is mine. Alright, Oblivion Stone. That's not too bad. That means we have time, right? And they can't crack it. They can't crack the Oblivion Stone. So I think what I want to do is just dig. So I'm going to play Flicker Wisp to target my Wall of Omens here. Obviously, we're drawing a bit many lands here. I'm going to play a blue source out here in case we draw a Jace next turn, which we do need double blue for. Let's go ahead and just play this Flicker Wisp, target Wall of Omens, and we'll get our draw. Hopefully find a Field of Ruin. Spreading Seas won't quite do it now that Oblivion Stone is here, but a Field of Ruin, ooh, a Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter is great. It's absolutely fantastic. Worm Coil, we can beat a Worm Coil. Especially if my opponent's on 3 lands here. Ooh, opponent's on 3 lands and we drew a Gideon. So we have a couple options here. I think what I want to do is Detention Sphere the Oblivion Stone. And then we can Ghost Quarter on my opponent's draw step. And so we're probably going to be blocking with the Flicker Wisp here. I'm sorry, with the Wall of Omens. So we put a stop. The reason we do it on our draw step is our opponent could draw one of their basics. And we want to, we don't want to thin our opponent's deck before they draw, right? So they searched for the Urza's Mine here. So we're going to go ahead and blow up the Urza's Mine. And then we have Gideon to answer this Worm Coil. Now, the worry is, of course, that this green source means they cannot play their Ancient Stirrings or their Sylvan Scryings. That'll do it too. This might force us to Crucible into another Oblivion Stone. Okay. That's a bit rough. That is a little bit rough for us, but let's go ahead and just preserve our life total here. Ooh, Spreading Seas. Okay, interesting. So we could play the Crucible. I think we want to get the Crucible down this turn. Right, let's think about that. We could play Spreading Seas, which means no. I think we want to play one of our 3 drops here. Let's go ahead and get this Crucible down. If we can find another Flicker Wisp, we can blink the Detention Sphere and grab both of the Oblivion Stones. But right now, I think I'm just going to keep my opponent off of Tron for as long as I possibly can. It's weird. I almost want to thin my opponent from lands, because if they hit one more natural land drop, they can just blow up Oblivion Stone. So weirdly enough, I think I wanna upkeep this one. And we just want to keep blowing up the same Tron land. It'll decrease my opponent's chances of drawing that same Tron land. Now, of course, if they have another Sylvan Scrying here, it's not much we can do. Yep, well. My opponent might be inclined to blow up Oblivion Stone now, because it'll mean that we won't get our Crucible, which means that then Spreading Seas might be enough for a little bit here. Yeah, so they're again in, oh, but they get one of their Oblivion Stones back. Huh. That's very good for my opponent. Alright, that's a Chromatic Sphere. Cracking it. Do they have an Ancient Storage to go with it too? Wow, our opponent just has it all. Must be nice. So again, this is what I mentioned before, that even if you get Tron off of everything that they're doing, like they'll still get you. I'm gonna go ahead and target the Urza's Mine here. Supreme Verdict is not the worst. I'm actually gonna play out this Plains. We want to work towards our Plains count rather than playing this other Emeria. So even though it is a tap land. Wow, our opponent just... This might mean that they don't have any action in hand, though. If they have all just ways to get Tron, I don't know, though, guys. This seems pretty bad for us. We're going to get smacked for 6 here. We can clear the board with Supreme Verdict. Another Expedition map. Okay, we knew about that. They got the mine, so there's nothing we know about anymore. Basic Plains, not the best, actually. I mean, Basic Island. So let's go ahead and just clear up the board here. I'm going to go ahead and save this fetch land for either a Prairie Stream or Shuffle Effect if we draw a Jace. Our opponent finding Urza's Power Plant here could be a bad sign for us. Means they already have an Ulamog in hand. Now the thing is, we might be able to +1 on Ulamog, but we won't be able to... what's the word? They got Urza's Tower here. 8, 10. Yeah, that's an Ulamog. Or it could be a big Walking Ballista. No, so Path to Exile might still be okay here. Oh, interesting. So they hit the Spreading Seas. Sure. So Path to Exile might buy us some time here. Wrath of God won't do it. So we're going to go ahead and +1 on the Ulamog here. Say go, but at this point we're a little bit too far behind to make it happen. Land. I think there's an argument for fetching before my opponent attacks here, or before the trigger. Right, they still get their attack trigger. They still mill us a bunch, so. Let's go ahead and get a Hollowed Fountain tapped. Let's see, did we mill any Path to Exiles? We milled 1 path, 2 path, 2 Path to Exiles. No, is that 3? No, I think that's 2. Right, so we still have some live draws in the deck, right? Not the end of the world, but looking pretty bad for us here, right? Looks like my opponent wants to blow up Oblivion Stone right now. That way we don't get another +1 activation off of him. Possibly because they're also playing a creature post-combat that they don't want to blow up. I guess a Chromatic Star that they don't want to blow up post-combat. So, do they have a Karn here as well? Wormcoil. So, now we're looking at like Court Hussar into... Reveal Ugin, jeez. No, alright, we're just very dead. Alright, we fought our hardest. You can't just give up games. As you saw, we draw the Ghost Quarter, we had the Crucible. We had pieces to get us going, but our opponent just kind of had it all there. So let's go ahead and get these negates, disdainful strokes in. Damping Sphere is great. Sorcerer's Spyglass is great. Stony Silence is fantastic. We have a lot of tools for this matchup here. I like to cut most of the sweepers. Lone Missionary is quite weak in this matchup. I like Wall of Omens because it's still a draw card effect to dig towards some of our hate pieces. So let's go ahead and bring in. And now we need space for 5 more cards. So Wrath of God, I mean, it cleans up Worm Coils in some scenarios, but we probably don't need it. Definitely want these. Yeah, we definitely want all of these. So the question is, what do we cut? Jace is arguably a little slow, but he's great if we have one of these lock pieces here. Maybe we could trim some Wall of Omens. And definitely want these in here. So what am I cutting? Maybe I do just want to cut Jace. Maybe this is just not the Jace matchup. Again, spells that add consistency to our deck are something that I want. But again, Wall of Omens not stellar in this matchup. So let's go ahead and just keep our hate in here. Yeah, let's go ahead and play first. Yeah, we have a Disdainful Stroke. This Phantasmal Image is not doing much right now, though. I think, no, as much as I want to mulligan this hand, I don't think I can. I think our best option is to just play it out here, see what happens. That's a relic. I'm actually not too worried about the relic. Oh, well, drawing our 1 Wall of Omens in this situation is actually kind of nice. Cortazar, sweet. Okay, so our opponent's not going to have Tron until turn 4 at the earliest, which is great for us. It means Cortazar might... Wow, and we found a Damping Sphere. That is... Do we want that right now? Maybe not. Maybe we want to wait 1 more turn on that. And I think we want to get another blue source here. So let's go ahead and actually shock for this Hallowed Fountain. And I don't think I want Cortazar in the graveyard right now. I think he's better served in play. So he was cast with white. So we don't have to sacrifice him. And we get to look at the top 3 cards of our deck and pick one. He's kind of like an Anticipate on a stick. Stony Silence seems great. If I'm not picking up a land here, I'd rather pick up a Stony Silence. Path to Exile might have been a consideration there. If we're thinking this game will go really long, that we need an answer to Flicker Wisp. Right, another Forest. Wow. Sylvan Scrying, sure. So now with the Stony Silence, we'll put our opponent in a position where they can't activate one of these here. Interesting that they didn't play their Tron land. So unfortunately here, looks like we just won't be able to kind of hit our lands on time. But Stony Silence will force them to probably crack this relic here because they can't crack the Expedition map. This means that any creatures in our graveyard moving forward will work towards this Emeria. Obviously, we're not hitting our lands here, so we're a bit away from that. But if this game goes long, it could be relevant to turn off relics. Is that the one they found? Yeah, that's the one they found last turn. All right, that doesn't do anything against Stony Silence, thankfully. That also does not do anything against Stony Silence. Ooh, Field of Ruin is great. I think this turn I'd rather just deploy a bunch of my hate, right? So, there's an argument to hitting their forests here. Just deny them some of that. They could also have a Thragtusk next turn. That's very possible. I think I want to force them to find more Urza's Mines, which is why I'm not hitting the Urza's Tower. And thankfully we don't have to worry about Oblivion Stone because of the Stony Silence. So I'm just going to deploy my hate here. And maybe next turn we'll have a good double spell turn where we can play a 3-drop plus hold up Disdainful Stroke. If my opponent just plays a Thragtusk here, yeah, no Thragtusk. That's great. Means our opponent's just not doing anything for a bit, and neither are we. So we could just Phantasmal Image here to try to hit a land drop. But I think from here on out, I want to be holding up Disdainful Stroke. So let's go ahead and Phantasmal Image. We'll target the Court Hussar as it gives us a better chance at hitting a land, and I don't mind having a phantasmal image in the yard. So negate would be great, but again, I really need my land drops here. So phantasmal image in the yard means that I can get it back with Sun Titan. And that's what's great, is even if my opponent has like nature's claims and things like that, I can just... So I think I'm gonna just happily Disdainful Stroke this year, even though we have the... I guess we have the Gideon. Maybe that was a little bit greedy of me. Well, now we drew the negate, so... I made a greedy play, but I got... I was paid off for it. So let's go ahead and attack here for 1. This Cortosar getting in some damage here. Some important damage, right? So now we want to go and play this Gideon out, I think, as it's a faster clock than Flicker Wisp. Let's just target... I guess we could have emblemed this turn. I guess there's no reason not to. Well, I guess there is a reason. Like, it means it's out of Ugin range from a shot of Ugin. Yeah, so thankfully we have this negate lined up here. So our opponent could still have an Ugin here, which is very scary. We even drew the Sun Titan. But, like, land into Ugin. What are the chances my opponent has their 8th natural land drop plus an Ugin just waiting in their hand? What are the chances? Is there anything we can do to play around that? I think the best thing we can do here, honestly, is just present a very fast clock. I guess there's an argument for not Disdainful Stroking that Wormcoil engine when I did, but we're going to put our opponent dead on board here unless they find a sweeper. So what we're going to do here is, yep, I guess we can Phantasmal Image back, targeting the Cortosar. Because we can Flicker Wisp out of the way any blocker. Crucible of Worlds is interesting. I think we just want a land drop here, though. Especially because we don't actually have any lands to put in the graveyard. So the Phantasmal Image back in the yard means Sun Titan can get it back later. Hopefully our opponent doesn't go land drop into Ugin here. Oh, well. Oh no, not like this. All is dust. Wow. But that puts it into the graveyard, which is very relevant actually. And we still have, and they can't play anything because of Damping Sphere. Oh, but they can crack their spheres now. Oof. Okay, so we're in a bit of a tight spot here. Another Sun Titan would be absolutely insane, I think. But our opponent just refreshed. That's kind of scary. I think we're going to start here with a... I think we'll just take off their Ghost Quarter capabilities here. And we could even... So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 planes. I really want to get this 6th plane here, though. But I also want to get a Flicker Wisp on the board. I think I don't know. I guess spending next turn on Field of Ruin is almost the same. So here we can... All is dust is pretty crazy. Did not expect that from my opponent. Let's go ahead and hit the Ghost Quarter here again. We want to protect our Urza, our Emeria. That's going to be our best way of getting our Sun Titan back. Alright, looks like our opponent's cracking Expedition Map. Do they have... I mean, Damping Sphere turns off Tron, though, so... But they might have, like, a... Karn? Walking Ballista, maybe? Looks like they might be paying an X costs. Oh, it is a Karn. Karn could just take the... Oh, they just go up. I guess we'll get rid of the Ghost Quarter because we want planes. Going up is smart. Oh man, just drawing these Path to Exiles here, not great. I think I'll go ahead and attack Karn. And so next turn, if my opponent downticks Karn, at least we'll have a little bit more pressure on it. On draw step, we're going to want to blow up that Urza's power plant. Let's get another plains from the deck. Yep, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 mana here. Technically 7 because Damping Sphere means our opponent has played 1 spell this turn. Finding a Karn here is pretty nuts, though. Alright, they're going to make me exile a Path to Exile from my hand. Chromatic Star, sure. Alright, we're going to start getting stuff back from our graveyard here. Some creatures, right? Let's go ahead and start with Sun Titan. Sun Titan gets back Phantasmal Image. Phantasmal Image copies Sun Titan. This Sun Titan gets back... Should we get a Gideon? That does present more threats on the board, but I also like the idea of a Corvisar. Just kind of dig into our deck for more stuff. Stony Silence is nice, but it's not doing much here. Huh, interesting. I think we'll just take the other Sun Titan, right? Worst case scenario, our opponent has like an... Ooh, wow. Oh, but that means we can't play the Sun Titan, right? Because we don't have any lands in our yard. We have the Field of Ruin, so what we can do is we can Sun Titan back. Yeah, I kind of like Sun Titaning back the Field of Ruin here, and then playing Sorcerer's Spyglass for 3. It's a little bit of a spew, but Sorcerer's Spyglass is great here. We'll just name Karn easy, right? Karn liberated. And now the question is, do we even attack Karn? I don't think so. I think they're out here as like Ugin. So I think we'll just go ahead and attack our opponent here. So they're sitting on Forest plus Urza's Tower plus Karn liberated. Our opponent goes down to 8. That means they're dead on board next turn as far as I'm aware. They have this one crack here with Chromatic Star. They play the Urza's Tower. They crack the Star, so they have 2 unknowns essentially. They have 2 draws here to find something to handle our board. Thankfully, we have a Path to Exile in our hand. Alright, Sylvan Scrying is 1 dead card. But if their last card is an Ugin, this game could be really rough for us. And our opponent concedes. Yeah, wow, that looks like we crawled our way out of that. That's really great. Our hate piece is coming in really nice. I imagine my opponent's probably going to bring in some Nature's Claims here, but there's not much we can do about Nature's Claim, so I don't think we can do anything differently other than what we did. I kind of like Jace for the mid game, but I think like having that path for the Wormcoil for the Ulamog is just so important because we can still crawl our way back into those kind of games with a Path to Exile. So as much as I like Jace for games like that, I think we just want to stick to our Path to Exiles. And maybe we can play a bit more conservatively with our counter spells, like Disdainful Stroke. We didn't need to Disdainful Stroke that that Wormcoil engine. So we can be a little bit more conservative with that moving forward. I mean, we just can't keep this hand. This hand we can keep though. Stony Silence with a negate backup. More negates. I'll take more negates. So even though like we don't necessarily want to flood, we still want to hit land drops, which is why I didn't use the flooded strand there. All right, our opponent cracking that main phase I think is really good for us. Okay, never mind. So we might be in a position where we just have to hold up negate from here on out until we can find like a Field of Ruin effect or a Ghost Quarter. All right, that's another land. Now I don't want more lands. But it is the second blue source, which means we might be able to double counterspell on certain turns. Alright. Chromatic Star, sure. So that's one of the reasons, like, to play out the Stony Silence. It means they can't just cycle a bunch. But I think the threat of, like, turn 3 Karn there is just too great, right? Alright, they didn't do anything with their mana there, which kind of scares me. It's either they have a bunch of lands, or they have a bunch of big stuff. So the reason I got the Hallowed Fountain instead of the Irrigated Farmland out of the deck was because I kind of like the idea of a land that I draw still being a cycler, so we don't have to thin it out of the deck right now, but oh man, is this just like, this is just Ulamog. Yeah, oh my god. This is just turn 4 Ulamog, yep. So let's make sure we float some white mana here. I guess we can float a blue. But yeah, it looks like this is not a game we're going to win. Again, turn 4 Ulamog on the draw is really hard to beat. Let's go ahead and say okay there. I guess we still want to hold up negate, right? My opponent has the second Ulamog. I mean, I will cry. I'll be upset, but I will also cry. All right, they have a bunch of cyclers here. Yeah, I'm not gonna negate that. I was honestly just about to concede there. I thought it was another Ulamog. I thought they were tapping all their mana. I think we want to actually get the island here, as weird as that may be, to make sure that we can double spell on like turn 4 with 2 blue spells. God, their Ancient Stirrings, yeah, they just have so much gas at this point. That's a World Breaker. Well, we can't kill a World Breaker. Also, getting an island means that World Breaker can't take us off of blue mana. So I have a feeling we're not negating next turn, so maybe it's just, well, I'm gonna be greedy. I'm gonna play it because I don't want to just kind of like go use my mana, have my mana go unused, and then my opponent just gets me. Oh, another Ancient Stirrings. Wow, that's worst case scenario for us here. I think they're gonna find like a Karn here, and we're gonna another Ulamog. Oh my god, I am so close. Maybe they go for the Stony Silence though, and that leaves us with mana. No, they just go for the blue. Well, we've been Stone Rained 4 times now. It's not even Stone Rain because it's not in our graveyard. Well, World Breaker will probably hit Stony Silence. They can't use the Expedition map here because of Stony Silence. It's crazy how if like they had one less threat, we might actually be in this game. But they hit the Stony Silence, which makes sense to me here. This also means that we can still draw fetch land and we're half in this game. Here they can find their Sanctum of Ugin with Expedition map. That's a Sanctum. They can crack the Relic whenever they want. Wall of Omens, yeah, I mean that's probably one of our better draws here. To a land, sure. Alright, they don't crack the Relic. That's good for us. Is there an argument to just taking this 3 damage right now? I think there is. I think they could present a larger creature that we'd want to sog up more damage from, like a Worm Coil. An Oblivion Stone, okay. Well, again, a fetch land would get us untapped blue mana here, but it doesn't look like that's going to work out for us. So Opponent's cracking the relic. Makes sense. They put in an Oblivion counter on the... Alright, now I'm going to block because I am worried that if my opponent just cracks stone, blows up wall. Wow, drawing the negate. Yeah, well, this is how these games go sometimes. There's not much you can do about it. Tron obviously just has the inevitability, so in Game 2 we were able to run them out of threats. Game 3 they just not only ran out of threats, but cut us off our mana here. Wow. I mean, again, we're not dead yet, but I almost feel like we might as well be. Like, imagine if we just had like one more blue source here into Cortazar, like way earlier in the game. You're not, yeah, go to your second main. Ancient Stirrings, this card is busted. This card is just straight busted. That's a Karn. I think that's going to make me wrap it up here. But we can play it out a little bit longer. Like, imagine if we had a blue source, we could negate that. We could block that World Breaker. Obviously, our opponent had the double Ulamog draw, which turn 4 Ulamog into like turn 6 Ulamog. It's just not very fair. But they blow up one of our lands. 1, 2, 3. That's 7 mana. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pack it in, guys. I don't think we need to see any more there. Unfortunately, even though we have the tools to beat Tron, it's just not a great matchup. And anybody you talk to that says like, oh, you're a blue-white deck with all these Spreading Seas and Field of Ruins and you think Tron is a good matchup, trust me, guys, it's not a good matchup. It is still unfavored. You might be the most favored of any blue control deck, but you're still an unfavored deck against these Tron variants. Anyways, with that said, we still put up a fight, right? It's not like it was a steamroll, and I think there were plenty of opportunities, especially in each game, actually, for us to get back in it. So we put up a fight. Our opponent had some pretty good draws. Turn 4 on the play, Ulamog is really good against any fair deck, even against unfair decks. So thank you all so much for watching. That was the first match here with Blue-White Emeria, and stay tuned for the second match coming up in just a second. I will see you all soon. Alright, let's get back right to it. We're here for our second match with Blue-White Emeria. We lost a die roll. Very unfortunate for us. However, we're a pretty slow deck, so that extra draw is not the end of the world. So here, kind of awkward, but we can have Field of Ruin to find our blue source, and we still have a play on turn 2, which is Wall of Omens. So I think I'm going to keep it, and it's going to be great in a matchup where land destruction is good, right? So let's go ahead and just keep it. We're a slow deck. We have some draws. Let's see what our opponent is playing. Alright, looks like it might be a control matchup, right? Blue-white control, Jeskai control. Could be a variety of things here. I guess leading with planes was probably a mistake in the face of potential Spreading Seas. I mean, now it's not, but let's go ahead and just get this Wall of Omens out here. We can Field of Ruin our opponent off of certain cards. Off of Colonnade, off of red mana. Irrigated Farmland, that is a blue source. Question is, will we want to use it? I'm not sure. Alright, looks like our opponent has double red, so I'm more inclined to hit my opponent off of Field of Ruin here, or off of Colonnade. It's also the more problematic card down the road. Our opponent is kind of telling me here that they don't have counter magic, or else they would have shocked that Steam Vents, or they would have Serum Visions before they played the land. I don't know. Could be a variety of things. Let's see how my opponent scried, just so we're aware. So they put one card on top, one on bottom, so they're drawing a card that they want. So in a grinding game like this, I'm inclined to hold on to the Irrigated Farmland and just play this Field of Ruin here. We could even cycle the Farmland here, but I'm actually, again, more inclined to blow up the Field of Ruin on my opponent's draw step. This means that they don't net an extra mana unless they want to use it right now. Alright, looks like they do want to use it right now, potentially. Maybe they want to Snapcaster Mage here, target Serum Visions. Electrolyze me, maybe? If I eat up my opponent's turn like this, oh man, yeah, please. I think that's great for us. Let's go ahead and get our island. Opponent gets the plains, the basic plains. Alright, looks like they have Getting a Flicker Wisp online is actually quite interesting. Although they are the deck with bolts and helixes, I might just want to attack their mana base right now. And they usually only play Logic Knot as their So there's an argument to Field of Ruining before we play this. I actually don't think we want to do that. See, my opponent wants to get a Sacred Foundry tapped. Interesting. So we might be able to cut them off of white this game. Let's go ahead and just, I guess not playing the irrigated farmland kind of, screwed us over. Opponent's Serum Vision. So I wonder what they're sitting on. Maybe they're just sitting on a bunch of paths, bunch of bolts of Snapcaster Mages. Maybe no counter magic. Let's see how my opponent scried this time around. They put 2 on top. Okay. No 5th land either. Sun Titan is awesome. So I think I'm gonna start here. If my opponent wants to blow like a Logic Knot on this, I think I'm okay with that. Interesting, another plains. Again, I think I'd rather play the plains in case of Emeria. And now we can just go ahead and run out a Flicker Wisp here. And we'll probably target the Spreading Seas, because this just means our opponent can't like double bolt the Wall of Omens in case we target it. Even though I'd kind of be okay with that, instead of giving my opponent the option of doing something, I'd rather just do the thing that guarantees getting what I want. So they could have Electrolyze here, which is pretty good, but we're going to just keep cutting them off of white this game here as best as we can. We drew a Gideon, which is pretty good. Scalding Tarn. Let's see, they could play Teferi here. Teferi would be kind of annoying, but we do have... Yeah, Teferi is definitely annoying. We do have the Detention Sphere here. But if our opponent has like the negate, we could bait the negate, right? We could bait the negate or the Logic Knot first with like Gideon. Yeah, I think I'm interested in doing that actually. Let's go ahead and play the Field of Ruin. I think we'll play Gideon out here. If my opponent wants to negate that, I'm very happy with that. Okay, so they let that resolve, so I'm gonna go ahead and plus here. And now we'll go ahead and play the Detention Sphere. We'll target the Teferi. If it resolves, our opponent could be like, yeah, I knew that was a bait. Yeah, it looks like they have a Logic Knot here, unfortunately. So we couldn't quite bait them. But we at least have this Gideon to pressure the Teferi, possibly. And we also have Sun Titan to get back the Detention Sphere. But now that this Teferi's on board, we're in a pickle, right? Because our opponents, all right, looks like they think the Gideon's threatening enough that they want to down tuck. Wow, did we just draw another Gideon? Just straight up. Okay, sure. If my opponent just spent their whole turn doing that, I think interesting. So let's go ahead and I guess I want to play the Sun Titan when it's safe. My opponent's pretty, I mean, they're representing the Cryptic Command here pretty hard. I mean, it means they would have had to have found it a few turns ago, but they could also just been playing the long game very easily here, just kind of countering spells that matter. So my opponent might get the bait here. I mean, it's not really bait, right? We'll go ahead and target the Spreading Seas here, I think. I kind of want to Ghost Quarter the Hollowed Fountain, but I could just as easily Ghost Quarter the Plains after I draw something. Looks like they want a Path to Exile in response. Let's see what we draw before we make any decisions. Crucible. Wow, interesting. I could lock my opponent out of white mana this game. Sure. So next turn I would have had 8 mana, but that's still not enough to play Crucible plus Sun Titan. Right, because I think we've hit both of the Hollowed Fountains, if I'm not mistaken. No, we haven't. So our opponent could still have a white source here. Fighting through this Teferi is going to be tough, but our mana hate does present our opponent with some issues. I wonder what my opponent is. Oh, they're just floating blue because they don't want to untap my lands. Makes sense. Path to Exile, huh? So the issue with playing Crucible here is means we have no follow-up. It just kind of means we play into our opponent's counter magic without any like opportunity for a double spell turn. So I think we'll just go ahead and pass. Sitting on 7 lands. If we find an Emeria, then we might be in a pretty good spot here where we could just jam threats. But as it stands, I see no reason to just give my opponent the opportunity to counter our spells. It's not like, oh, we have to fight through. With Teferi on the board, it's very possible that they just have so much gas that it doesn't matter. They could electrolyze me here. Yep, they want to cycle a bit. That's pretty good. But we have Wall of Omens to block the Snapcaster Mage. So again, we want to present opportunities to double spell. So if I can play like Crucible plus Detention Sphere down the road, then that's what I want to do. Alright, looks like my opponent is fetching here. Are they fetching a white source? Because if they are, I will take them off of it. Looks like they are fetching a white source. And then my opponent's like, uh-oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to do that. Yeah, I definitely want to hit my opponents. I'm gonna Path to Exile out a Wall of Omens. And then we do that. The question is, do I want to Path to Exile my opponent's Snapcaster Mage here? I guess we have Wrath of God to blow it up. No need to use up one of our premier removal spells, possibly for a Celestial Colonnade down the road. And there's a Celestial Colonnade, right? So we could bait our opponent with running out this Wrath of God. If they counter it, then we can play something else. Opponent gets in for 2. I wonder if there's any reason to crack this fetch right now. I mean, it is a little bit of thinning, but I don't think it matters. And we should be afraid of like Bolt Snap Bolt finishes here, so we definitely want to keep our life total high, but we have cards like Lone Missionary, Emeria to get some cards back from our yard. Lone Missionary, there's Lone Missionary, right? So that's why I didn't want to burn a spell on that like that. So we have 7, 8, 9 mana. We can go Wrath, Crucible, Lone Missionary. So I think we want to lead on Wrath of God. It's the card that'll have the least impact on this game here. If my opponent wants to counter that, yeah, I imagine they don't. Prairie Stream, untapped. Play a Lone Missionary, gain some life. Spell Snare, huh? Well, Crucible. did our best here to run back some double spell turns here, but oh wow, that resolved. Do I just get Ghost Quarter? I think I just get Ghost Quarter, right? My opponent just let that resolve. Wow. I guess there's a chance we might just be dead here. Wow, I did not play around being dead. They could just have like Snap Bolt. I guess I want to take them off of white now. Make sure they don't Snap Helix me some more. Say go. So that lone missionary gaining us 4 life might have been relevant. Search for his Canta. Wow, and we just resolved Crucible? Jeez. I mean, could be that my opponent just doesn't respect that. Oh, they have the Field of Ruin. Interesting. They do play Field of Ruins. I guess Jeskai does do that, right? They untap 2 lands. They can flip a Search for his Canta. Definitely. Detention Sphere. Wow. So, I kind of like leading off with Detention Sphere here. It means we can attack this Teferi. Our opponent is inclined to try to fight over it. Wow, no fight, huh? Okay. I mean, if I'm dead, I was tapped out last turn, and my opponent's just slow rolling me. Excuse me. Here, let's get back, I guess, Ghost Quarter. And here I'll get back Lone Missionary to gain some life. And I kept that Path to Exile here in case my opponent has like a Snapcaster Mage in my future. Or a Click. Path to Exile can hit Vendilion Click. Now we're a little bit out of range of anything crazy. My opponent doesn't have white mana available. Sure, I don't have any basics left. Does my opponent have any basics? Alright, looks like they have their last island left. And I guess they can actually flip the Search for his Canta for 1 turn here. But then we'll be able to blow it up on our turn with a Ghost Quarter. Serum Visions, sure. See how my opponent scries, right? They put 1 card on bottom, 1 card on top. No white mana means this Sun Titan is pretty safe. Again, they could be sitting on a bunch of helixes. So this Flooded Strand cannot get an untapped white source, I believe. Yeah, Hollowed Fountain down, Spreading Seas on there. Activating his Canta right now, which is kind of awkward right after they cast Serum Visions. They put a Mana Leak in their hand. Mana Leak does not do much from this position for my opponent. And our opponent concedes. Yeah, we kind of had the lock there, right? That was pretty sweet. Didn't think we'd make it back that well into the game, but looks like we did it. So in this matchup, I actually like trimming some number of path because even though they have clicks, they might have Baneslayer, Celestial Colonnade. I think we don't want to like die in hand with a bunch of cards like that. We can cut some Lone Missionaries, even though they're pretty nice against the burn plan. They're not essential. You can cut a Wrath of God, cut 1 Verdict, because they do play sometimes Secure the Waste, so it's nice to have that in the deck. Let's go ahead and bring these in here. And our deck should be pretty streamlined here, right? Wall of Omen still blocks Snapcaster Mages, draws cards. Everything in our deck either draws cards or does something we want. So, yeah, let's go ahead and run it back. Try to get that that win against Jeskai Control here. I think this matchup, again, we saw the Field of Ruin there, so it turned out okay for us, but I think the way we win this matchup is having it go long, avoiding a resolve to fairy, and playing an Emeria. Here we have a negate in hand. I'm already inclined to keep it. We have Path to Exile, which means we can even answer a Vendilion click if necessary. I'm also just kind of like, I think I'm going to just lead on Hollowed Fountain tapped. I don't want to use my fetch right away, because again, we do have Jace in the deck. Now it's only one Jace. Don't have to like overthink that too much, but there's an Emeria. And again, we also want to just make sure we're playing out our planes. That's a Wall of Omens. Ooh, Sorcerer Spyglass. Pretty good card. I think I just want to play out the Emeria here, hold up Negate. And then next turn I can play Sorcerer Spyglass plus Negate backup. Opponent does not have another land here. That's a really good for us in a control matchup. Crucible is also a really good pickup. I can't even begin to explain how good of a pickup that is. Let's go ahead and just Sorcerer Spyglass here. My opponent wants to fight over that. I might counter, like a Spell Snare would be a really good answer for the Spyglass here. But looks like if my opponent's fetching, they might have like a Logic Knot for X equals 2, or they might just be cracking their fetch because I can name Flooded Strand with it. Wow, my opponent's hand is pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and pull up their hand here. I think we just want to name Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Obviously, my opponent doesn't have a Teferi in their hand right now. We also know our opponent is just sitting on a bunch of burn spells that we don't care about right at this stage of the game. Wow. So unfortunately, I can't play Crucible and get value off of it right now, as much as I'd like to resolve it right now. But I think I can just resolve a Gideon and go to town, right? We'll want to tick it up if my opponent wants to go like Bolt Snap Bolt on it. I think I'm okay. It's still going to eat up 2 of my opponent's turns here. Yep. All right, there's a mountain. Them drawing basics is actually really good for us. It means we'll run them out of basics sooner with Field of Ruin. I think here I just want to go ahead and crack this fetch. Probably get the Prairie Stream out of our deck. Although Irrigated I guess with a Crucible out, Irrigated Farmland could be a pretty decent draw. So I guess we'll rev him up here. Force my opponent to do something here first. Yeah, I imagine it's just going to get helixed. Yep. Here we can play Crucible of Worlds. Play this Flooded Strand out of the yard. Now we're just building up towards our plains count. Alright, there's a Colonnade for my opponent. That's not bad. It is a tap land though, right? So they use both their Bolt and Helix, and they're sitting on 1 unknown card. I'll go ahead and crack this for a Hollowed Fountain right now. Don't want to draw it. Let's thin our deck a little bit. Field of Ruin, huh? Interesting. I kind of want to... Spreading Sea is a basic land here. Like a mountain. Cut them off of potentially red sources for the rest of the game. Ooh, Disdainful Stroke. Also a pretty nice pickup here. Interesting. I wonder what's happening here. Snapcaster Mage, sure. Just gonna like Helix me. That seems like a poor use of their Snapcaster Mage, but especially because not only do they have Verdict in hand, but I'm at, what, gonna be 15, they're at 25. That's one of their premier spells, Snapcaster Mage. Maybe they think they can resolve these Angels and just go to town. Yeah, now that my opponent hit their 6th land drop, I'm kind of okay just using a Path to Exile here. I'll let that resolve. See if my opponent attacks here. They probably won't. So I'm going to start with a Path to Exile right there. Opponent is F6'd. So I'm going to go ahead and just, you know, we went after the basic here, but I'm going to go ahead and kill the Colonnade. Our opponent is going to run out of basics pretty quick. I mean, we went after the yeah, so we went, excuse me, I hope I'm not like blabbering too much here, but. And now I'm actually okay getting the irrigated farmland out of my deck because I want the most basics possible to make my recursion of Field of Ruins here pretty insane. Alright, Lone Missionary, just gain some life. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have 7 planes next turn, which is not bad, which means... So we'll stroke the Lyra. That kind of sounds weird. We'll stroke the Lyra. Yeah. Let's go ahead and disable stroke that. We have negate backup as well. And our opponent just concedes the match there because we were going to have the lock there with Crucible, Emeria. I mean, I don't know what we were drawing exactly. Let's take a look. Path to Exile. Sun Titan. Sun Titan would have been good because even if they counter it, we can get it back with Emeria. Yeah, we were just going to town. Our opponent needed a Field of Ruin to kind of be in this game, and then we still have the Crucible in play, right? So we just kind of had all the pieces coming together. We'll just grind our opponent out. We're ahead on clock. We're ahead on board. We just had all the answers here. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching that second match here with Blue-White Emeria. And stay tuned for the third and final match coming up real soon. Alright, here we go for the third and final match here with Blue-White Emeria. Let me guys know how the sound quality has been with this new microphone so far. It's pretty exciting here, but I do need your feedback. Let me know how it is. Let's take a look at our opener here. It is unfortunately 6 lands and a 3-drop. Can't keep that. Let's go ahead and ship it back. This is more reasonable. Sun Titan is not what we want at this point in the game, especially without any, like, if like maybe we had a cantrip here, maybe. But hopefully we're up against an aggressive deck here. Flax doesn't have Torkar. Oh, so this is, wow, this is going to be a grindy match, guys. I hope you're prepared. We could Path to Exile this right away. I don't think we need to. This is going to be super grindy. Wow. I think they sometimes play Emeria too. So this is going to be a long game, let's just say that. But Path to Exile is going to be a good answer for their 1-drop creatures that gain a bunch of power and toughness from life gain. I forget the exact name, but we'll definitely see it here in a few moments. Our opponent might also be on 4 Field of Ruins here, so we should... Oh, Thalia. That's less expected. But it could be kind of like a hedge against Storm in a certain meta. Either way, I'm happy with my opponent playing these types of creatures because we're a pretty creature-heavy deck as well. So let's go ahead and play Lone Missionary. We got some life gain of our own here, my friend. Let's do it. I think I'm the better life gain deck. Oh, you know what? I take that back. I think I'm the better grindy deck, but they're the better life gain deck. And in a game like this, where life gain doesn't matter and I'm not pressuring their life total, I think winning the grind is more important. But we do have to be careful. We're not quite sure what our opponent is playing because they don't have a stock build here. Thalia is definitely not stock in, God, I can't even remember the name of this deck, but I'll remember it eventually. Selfless Spirit, okay. I guess that's pretty good, right? This is a more like low to the ground build of it. Alright, we'll just take 2 here. Sun Titan, yeah, I mean... think I actually want to attack here. It's kind of awkward if my opponent takes the block, but I think they won't. I might be I'm pushing it here, I think, but I think it's possible that they don't. We're going to let for our opponent to hand priority back to us in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, never mind. I was gonna go ahead and pause the video there, but... Again, Lone Missionary is not going to be a great blocker, so we just attack. And we didn't think they were going to block, so... Good thing we got in there. Flicker Wisp can target our Lone Missionary because we don't have any sources of card advantage on the board currently. So Mardu of Sands gets worse and worse as the game goes on. So the fact that my opponent didn't sack it right away is, I think, a good sign for us. Either they don't know how to play their deck or their hand is just bad that they have to play out these cards on curve. I think either way is good for us. They could also be saving it for a Squadron Hawk draw. That's absolutely possible. So here we want to draw some of our mid-range creature effects. But Ghost Quarter, it's a little scary. Makes me wonder they might be playing Leonin Arbiters and things like that. I hope not. I think we'll just take the block here. You have a Sun Titan coming down in hopefully 3 turns. Johnny's Pridemate. Okay. So that is a path target. That's another card there. Interesting. So I could get them to blow up this Mardu of Sands if I attack here, and they block with the Ajani. And then if they don't block with the Ajani, all right. So we have 2 options here. We can Flicker Wisp targeting the Lone Missionary, but that means we can't Path to Exile this turn. We can also Flicker Wisp targeting our own land, which means we can Path to Exile this turn. And I think we'd rather just get the Flicker Wisp online. I don't think gaining the 4 life is going to be particularly important. And again, there's no reason for me to Path to Exile right now. Give my opponent an extra land on their turn. Another Johnny's Pridemate. Good thing we have 2 Path to Exiles. I wonder if my opponent attacks here. Maybe they should attack with Thalia. Yeah, sure. I think I want to get one of these out of my hand right now, but I don't think I need to fire off the second right away. So I am worried that my opponent might have some big cards in their hand, like expensive cards, possibly a Sun Titan of their own, which means we may want to save this Path to Exile. All of them, sweet pickup here. I'm going to go ahead and use it right away. See what I find. Hopefully a land at the very least. Spreading Seas. Not a bad card either. Oh shoot, we can't cast it, can we? That's a shame. Guess we'll just hold up Path to Exile. And now we'll swing in with both Lone Missionary and Flicker Wisp. If my opponent wants to block the Ajani Pridemate, I think I'm okay with that. Although it depends. If they reveal a Sun Titan, then I might not. So we'll turn off auto yields here. They're going to sack their Martyr. They're going to show us their hand for the most part. Thalia, they reveal just a Thalia. Let's go ahead and Path to Exile that. And now I'm crossing my fingers that my opponent's last card in hand is not a card that they wanted to reveal. We could just be getting like max baited though, right? Like they could just like slam Sun Titan here and I will be very upset. We can even block the Thalia now, which is sweet. Wow, nice. They could deny us a draw here by ghost quartering their own land. Doesn't seem like that's a winning line for my opponent though. Another Spreading Seas is okay. Let's keep bashing in here with Flicker Wisp. If my opponent taps their Ghost Quarter anytime soon, we may be able to get it with Field of Ruin. But again, I don't want to Field of Ruin this Flagstone because that just cycles into another land for my opponent. So it looks like they have another Thalia in hand at the very least. Again, we said that before. That's a land. Okay. So here, I think there's an argument to actually attacking with both. Because we'll be able to get it back. Our opponent could have a Path to Exile in hand right now, which would be unfortunate, but I will take that chance, considering my opponent just hasn't done anything. They haven't pathed the Flicker Wisp. In worst case scenario, we're getting at least 2 Flicker Wisps in the air here. Does Sun Titan draw the concession? Let's find out. So this is an off the wall, right? That's a phrase. Martyr proc, maybe? Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, I think that's like the Proclamation of Rebirth plus Martyr of Sands deck. They might not be playing Proclamation of Rebirth though, so. Okay, so we target the Flicker Wisp here. When Flicker Wisp comes back to play, it'll target the Sun Titan. Sun Titan will blink at the end of turn, get back Lone Missionary, and suddenly we have, well, we force lethal next turn at a very safe life total. Now, my opponent could have a Wrath of God here, but it would be really weird for my opponent to be the Thalia Wrath of God deck. Now, I wouldn't put it past them, but I think we're in a good spot here. All right, and my opponent concedes. Sweet. For this matchup here, maybe we want Spyglass. I'm not sure. Maybe we want some number of negates. I'm also not sure. They're pretty creature heavy. Lone Missionary, maybe to stave off some early aggression if we don't find a Path to Exile. Settle the Wreckage is interesting, but I don't know how much I want to ramp them. These cards probably not. Yeah, and negate, I think, considering we saw so little of their deck, we can probably not play the negates. We can probably cut some number of Spreading Seas at the very least. Probably, oh, Lone Missionary is okay. I don't want to cut Lone Missionary. We can probably bring in Settle, probably bring in Sorcerer Spyglass. This can at the very least name opposing Ghost Quarters, opposing Field of Ruins, because we're not going to be using our Field of Ruins very much in this matchup, but they might on our Emerias. This might not be the matchup for Crucible at all, so let's go ahead and trim that. Again, it's interesting to bring in like negates because we like don't know what we're gonna play against, but it's probably gonna be live against like a Path to Exile or something. But if that's all it's hitting, I don't know if I'm excited about that. And the 4th Lone Missionary, while our opponent did show a kind of aggressive leaning deck there, I don't think we need it. So, and again, I want to keep all my sweepers because it does look like my opponent is playing to the board. And we don't mind if our stuff goes to the graveyard, right? We have Emeria to bring it all back. That's going to be a no for me. No land. But this is nice. Don't want another wall. I think at this point I just want more lands. Should I be scared of Leonin Arbiter is the question I'm asking myself right now. They said they're playing Thalia. It's possible that they're playing Arbiter as well. I think I'm going to lead on the Flooded Strand just because of that. Even though I could save a bit more life without it, I'm going to just kind of respect my opponent having a weird build of this deck. Again, Thalia could just be a main deck hedge towards like the combo decks that they obviously can't beat game 1, like Storm, like Ad Nauseam. But with that said, I don't know. I'm just gonna respect my opponent. Johnny's Pridemate, sure. So I'm going to go ahead and just fetch a land here. Fetch a Hollowed Fountain. Because my opponent did show Ghost Quarter, so we want to have as much basics left in our deck if my opponent does choose to Ghost Quarter us at any point in the game. Alternatively, I could get the Irrigated Farmland or Prairie Stream. Maybe I should get the Irrigated Farmland in this position. Because it's not a card we want to draw, and Prairie Stream is slightly more live. Let's go ahead and get the Farmland. Our opponent's going to grow their Pridemate a little bit here, but we do have Path to Exile to answer it. We also have Flicker Wisp to blink it if it grows way out of control. But at this point, I think I'd rather dig towards a sweeper than anything else. Than start like willy-nilly throwing my Path to Exiles, ramping my opponent. There's no reason to freak out. Emeria is a sweet pickup. Let's just go and play Wall of Omens. Oh, I guess that does grow my opponent to Johnny's Pridemate. I didn't think about that. I did not think about that. Ooh, there's a verdict, though. Bam, that's exactly what we wanted, right? It's a shame that we're going to sweep away the board and lose this Wall of Omens, because it's a nice source of card advantage with a Flicker Wisp in our hand. Squadron Hawk, sure. Yep, our opponent is going to gain a bunch of life, play a bunch of cards, but hopefully the Supreme Verdict at least cleans up a bit of what's going on, and then we can take over the late game with Emeria. We still have quite a few draw steps before that happens, though. So, given that Supreme Verdict draw, I do think we are in a favorable position. Soul Sisters, that's the word I'm looking for. Soul Sisters. Interesting. Attack with both? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Well, let's go ahead and just sog up some damage here. Another Wall of Omens, huh? I think I'd rather just play the Lone Missionary here, as weird as that might be. The reason being is I'd rather have a Wall of Omens sticking around post-Sweeper that can also be flickered with Flicker Wisp. Possibly on the same turn, on turn 5, if we hit a 5th land. So let's see. Our opponent still has 3 Squadron Hawks. That is all that we know about our opponent's deck at the current state. Our opponent's hand. Excuse me. Alright, they're attacking with that, and I think we'll go ahead and say, alright, I'll block. Interesting, they might be playing around a sweeper effect here. And I think I'm okay if they are. In case we just, like, keep drawing planes, then I'd rather... have a planes out rather than play the basic island. So even though we didn't have to take 2 damage there, I don't think this game is going to come down to 2 damage, and I'd rather have the extra planes in play, again, in case we just keep ripping planes off the top. Because what you want to do is just play a planes as many times as you possibly can. Whoa. Holy crap. Yeah. We just got. I did not know my opponent plays Ghostway. See, that's the thing. When you play a deck that, like, is fringe, then you can get people with what just happened. Clearly, we just got wrecked. Our opponent's Johnny's Pridemate is going to become a 4/4, and we'll get hit for at least 6, maybe 7 next turn. So getting this Johnny's Pridemate off the board is probably going to be our priority number 1 from here. But we'll see if our opponent just keeps playing the Ghostway game, right? Ghostway is sweet. Ghostway makes me want to have negates. Now that we've seen a little bit more from our opponent's deck. I wonder if my opponent has more Ghostways, or if they're just going to start playing to the board. Rest in Peace. Now that's good. That's a good card. That is rough. That is definitely rough for us here. And that's a Sarah Ascendant. Oof. Some life gain. We'll get smacked for 7 here. We'll go to 9. Ghostway is really not a card I was considering. Really not on my radar. And I don't want to walk into another Ghostway, right? So which means maybe I should have played a land before I did all of this. Especially because Rest in Peace means Emeria is not doing that much. And I'd rather just, even though it gives my opponent the next land, maybe I just want to like path to exile everything right now, just play around Ghostway completely. We know 3 of the cards in their hand are Squadron Hawks. So I don't know how scared we should be. Of more Ghostways. I'd rather just take off the board all the things that could grow out of hand. Although, it might have been a little premature there. Play the island here. Although playing the Field of Ruin might actually be more correct, but I don't know if it's going to come up here. So I'm glad that we have cards like Gideon and Jace in the deck, and even Sun Titan is just like a big 6/6. We also have Detention Spheres to get this Rest in Peace off the board. I guess we kind of played and telegraphed as if we had the Sweeper effect. So these Squadron Hawks here are going to be quite good. Oh, my opponent have a Ranger of Eos as one of their last cards. Alright, so they're going for the Squadron Hawks in play. Interesting. Interesting that they play the Martyr and then play out the Squadron Hawks. So they're not actually gaining that much life, but maybe they don't need to, right? Again, maybe my opponent realizes that this game's not going to come down to how much life they have. It's going to come down to how much life I have. Opponent keeping up 2 mana here. Not sure why. Prairie Stream, huh? I'm going to go ahead and Flicker Wisp my Wall of Omens, try to get some card advantage. I wonder if my opponent wants to path to exile that. I don't think so. And here I guess we're kind of looking for another sweeper. So this Flicker Wisp can at least block one of these Squadron Hawks. But this kind of confirms to me that they're probably not playing Emeria in their deck, right? They wouldn't, I mean, they might have Rest in Peace, but seems unlikely to me. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we only even have 4 planes in play right now. So this Emeria is quite a bit away from doing anything. Wall of Omens hopefully finds us some good cards here. Well, Field of Ruin, not great. Not great. Yeah, so seeing Rest in Peace, seeing Ghostway, I definitely want some number of negates now. I think we're just going to F6 here. I don't think our opponent's going to make any play decisions based off of us holding up mana here, but could be wrong, but it's just F6 value, you know. Alright, opponent gaining a lot of life over there. We'll be doing some blocking here. Yeah, they should definitely attack on the ground. Interesting. They're choosing not to attack on the ground. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Our opponent did the math. Drawing a bunch of lands here. Not what we want. So Field of Ruin obviously very bad against what my opponent's doing. But we are flooding a bit. Wow, my opponent doesn't attack on the ground. I guess we shouldn't be F6ing. Maybe they aren't. They're gonna save us some life here. Yeah, so I think where the place where this game got out of control was Alright, so I didn't crack this fetch because, wow, jeez. I guess we still have one more draw available to us. So the reason I didn't crack this fetch is because now they're not presenting lethal. If I cracked it, they would have had 3 attackers. 3 attackers is lethal. So that could have been an argument to actually just play the Field of Ruin a few turns ago instead of running out the Flooded Strand. They might be playing around Settle the Wreckage too. I didn't think about that. I think now I will go ahead and crack this fetch. Go to 1 is not a great position against my opponent, but Flicker Wisp. Okay. I'll take it. So now I'm kind of upset that we're at 1 because now we're super dead unless we literally draw Settle the Wreckage here, which we might. Wow, just more lands. Yeah, that's... I mean, how many spells did we see this game? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 spells. A lot of lands. Bunch of attacks with both of the Squadron Hawks, and we're dead. Yep. That was a bit frustrating of a game there, but... Wow, and Detention Sphere, wow, and Jace on the way. Like, those a little bit earlier might have pulled us out of the game. So I definitely like some number of negate here. And I definitely don't like Spreading Seas in this matchup. Sorcerer Spyglass is probably going to be fine. I like all the stuff we're doing on our top end here. Maybe Phantasmal Edge is not good, but I think we just trim a Lone Missionary here. Seems fine to me. Yep. Let's do it. I like negate here. I like negate. I like how it hits. Rest in Peace and Ghostway now. Now that we know a little bit more about our opponent's deck. Hopefully we draw some good stuff though. I think an on-board Detention Sphere is going to be hard for our opponent to answer. So that way, even if our opponent plays multiple Rest in Peace, we can flicker it with Flicker Wisp and get both of the Rest in Pieces after that. Overall, I think this matchup should be favored for us, but again, when your opponent has the hate and you flood out a little bit, it feels pretty bad. Also, Ghostway, right? Let's go ahead and talk about that card one more time. Ghostway. And I actually like, now that I think about it, I like trimming Spreading Seas because they did show us Thalia. Lands and spells, yeah. I don't think we can ship this. Probably just fetch up a Hollowed Fountain here. These games go long enough where if I draw the Irrigated Farmland, then I may want to actually play it. Cycle it, excuse me. That's a Martyr. Let's get the Hollow Fountain tapped. Let's play our Lone Missionary. So Lone Missionary definitely feels worse than Wall of Omens here. We definitely want to be cycling, drawing cards. That's what this deck wants to do. Opponent attacks? I was gonna say, I'll trade. I will easily trade. Alright, no turn 2 play. Interesting. Alright, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to pause the video and get the charger for my computer. Alright, and we're back. Let's go ahead and play Flicker Wisp here. Just apply some pressure on the ground. It would be nice if we can get some what's the word I'm looking for? Value off of it, but gaining life is not the worst in this matchup, especially because they're pretty aggressive. Here they might be playing out. Oh, no Pride Mate here. That's a good sign for us. Nothing here is just great. Spring Verdict could be good. Let's go ahead and swing in here for 5 damage, ideally. Even Mind Sensor, huh? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Let's go ahead and trade. Opponent just flashes it in, says, okay. Maybe they're trying to bait a Path to Exile from us? Well, either way, looks like our opponent has some flash shenanigans for us here. Ideally, our opponent commits a little bit to the board before we have to sweep it. Alright, our opponent attacks us for 2. Sure, I'll take it. Rest in peace. Yeah, that's annoying, but there's nothing we can do about it. Phantasmal Image, interesting. I think right now we'll just go ahead and swing out here. Opponent's going to take a bit of damage here. Do I want to play the image? It's not even getting me any card advantage, and if I have to sweep next turn, that's going to feel even worse. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and say go here. It's a Ghost Quarter. If they Ghost Quarter us with an Aven Mind Sensor out, Chalice of Life. If you have at least 10 more life than your starting life total, interesting. That's interesting. That's life gain. So we'll go ahead and Path to Exile the Aven Mind Sensor in response. That way we can look through our deck for the cards that we want. We'll get a Plains here. Definitely need double white for most of the spells in our hand. Opponent is not attacking. They see that they are under a lot of pressure here. Another Flicker Wisp, sure. I guess maybe playing out the not playing out that Flicker Wisp last turn was a mistake. But we'll go ahead and do the thing. Wow, our opponent still's not blocking. That's really scary. I think I'll just copy my Flicker Wisp. It could Path to Exile in response. What we can do here is get that Chalice off the board for a second. Alternatively, we could also get their Martyr off the board until yeah, so what we do is we can target Flicker Wisp here. And so after we target Flicker Wisp, it'll come back at end step. And then on our end step, we can target one of these two. And then it'll come back on their end step. So we can deny them a use of a card on their own turn. Right, so they gain a life there. I guess this denies them 1 extra life gain. No, I guess not, right? No, it does. No, it doesn't. I don't know, maybe I was supposed to just rip the Martyr. But now, look guys, that was kind of an uneventful last game there, I will admit. And I really do enjoy playing this deck, so you know what? On the house, we'll get one more match here. Thank you all so much for watching that third match, and so this is not the final match. Stay tuned for a fourth match, which is probably the final match, coming up soon. Okay, my friends, welcome back to this fourth extra match here. Hope you guys will enjoy it. Let's go ahead and play first because we won the die roll. Well, a bit of a slow hand, but at least we're on the play, and we have some nice cards to play on turn 3. So if this is a grindy matchup, we have some good tools here. If it's a non-grindy matchup, then, well, we'll reassess. But I think this is a keep in the dark. Alright, a Ganjo Castle could be some sort of Death and Taxes, could be, okay, Death and Taxes it is, which means I want to crack this fetch land ASAP. So there's no way we can get got with our opponent on the draw here, because Aether Vial will only be on 1. And if they just naturally play it, then I'll just naturally crack my fetch. Selfless Spirit. Sure. Selfless Spirit is annoying in the face of a Supreme Verdict in our hand. But let's go ahead and just play the Fountain tapped. So if our opponent has a bunch of land destruction, interesting. I think I'm actually really interested in playing this Crucible. And on turn, we can set up for a sweeper on turn 5 by path exiling the Selfless Spirit next turn and then sweeping the board the following turn. Opponent does not have a 1-drop here. So I guess the Crucible isn't great in the face of an Arbiter, but it might just be passing. Alright, Thraben Inspector, sure. Alright. So far, things are going well. I think I'm going to crack this on my main phase right now if my opponent wants to play Leonin Arbiter here. They can do so, and we can still pay for it. They showed me that they don't have a Ghost Quarter currently. Let's go ahead and get a Plains. And we can just play a Wall of Omens here. That'll do some blocking on the ground. Also, my opponent's board isn't that great that I want to kill it right now. If my opponent Path to Exiles here, I already paid for Arbiter this turn. I will be able to get a land. So if they want to Path to Exile my Wall of Omens, they might want to wait a turn. Turn cycle, excuse me. Right? Aether Vial taking up to 3 is always scary against Death and Taxes. Alright, Path to Exile, sure. Again, I'm not afraid of Path to Exile. My opponent is getting aggressive here, no doubt. But we're in an okay spot. Again, I'd feel worse if we didn't have this Supreme Verdict, but we do. So I feel fine. That's a Revoker, possibly naming Field of Ruin. They could be naming Arid Mesa, though. Gideon of the Trials. Sweet. Looks like our opponent knows a little bit about our deck, huh? I kind of like... Kind of like the idea of a Court Hussar here. And then I kind of like the... Oh, well, my opponent will always have the Vial up, so... Again, I don't want Court Hussar in the graveyard currently. Sure. Ooh. Some nice cards. We could just get the second Verdict. We definitely don't want Gideon now that we saw that. Lone Missionary could be some nice life gain, though. And some nice blocking on the ground. But I think I'd rather have the second Verdict. And this stays in play because I think we paid for it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and Path to Exile my opponent's Selfless Spirit right now. If my opponent wants to Flicker Wisp it to save it, I think that's okay. Alright. Looks like they'll give their stuff indestructible this turn. which is fine. We have double Supreme Verdict to kind of try to seal the deal on our opponent's aggression here. A Blade Splicer here is a little scary, as is another, what's the word I'm looking for? Selfless Spirit in this position. Here, this means that Selfless Spirit really gets us. That's a Ghost Quarter. Could take us off our Emeria, but they can't take us off both of our blue sources. So I think what they want to start here is with a Horizon Canopy. All right, we'll say yes, but obviously we can't do anything because of Arbiter. And we'll block as much damage as we can next turn with the idea that Supreme Verdict is coming out. Wow, interesting. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We go to 5. A Flicker Wisp here, I think. No, it's not quite lethal. So this is why I consider taking that Lone Missionary instead of the Verdict. Oh, I guess I could have played Emeria out of the graveyard this turn, huh? That was kind of a misplay by me. It means next turn we might not be able to play Sun Titan. Yeah, so this is what I was afraid of, like a Flicker Wisp here. But the thing is, Flicker Wisp saves Blade Splicer for a turn. But we only get hit for 4. And we go to 1. And 1 is not 0. You go ahead and crack their clue here. So, yeah, they could draw gas here. They could easily draw gas, which is why I really did consider the Lone Missionary. But now we have Verdict to clean up the board now. Alternatively, we could be able to hit a natural land drop, play Sun Titan, clean up the board that way. Another Aether Vial. That's probably one of the best draws we can see out of them. Go to 1. Means any creature off of Vial kills us post-Verdict. Thalia. Sweet. So now I think we just go Verdict again. Play the Emeria out of our graveyard. Next turn we can play a Sun Titan. Alternatively, if our opponent doesn't do anything sorcery speed, we may consider Detention Sphering the Aether Vials, although I'm not sure considering our opponent does have this Horizon Canopy to crack here. Alright. Seagate Wreckage. It's not a bad card. I would feel much more comfortable with a Path to Exile in my hand here. But as it stands, what if I Desphere? Am I dead to a creature in play? The thing is, like, a creature on 3 is either Blade Splicer or Flicker Wisp, and Sun Titan doesn't save us from that either. So I'd rather cut them off of the ability to do that. Sweet. That worked out. I'm going to cut them off of Seagate Wreckage here. Play a land. Say go. I guess I could have cut them off some planes as well. Now we're afraid of Restoration Angel here now. So I think we want to dig for a Path to Exile with Cortisar. Alternatively, a Lone Missionary could also help us, but that's a Path to Exile. And I think I will just play out the land from my hand and say go. So we're stabilizing here at 1 life. Path to Exile, sure. Let's go and get a plains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planes. So we're getting to the point where we have infinite Maxisars, you know, with Emeria, but they do have that ghost quarter there, right? So it's not going to be super easy just stabilizing from here, but, well, it's going to be pretty easy. I think we start again with Court Hussar. We get a Flicker Wisp is interesting. Yeah, we probably want to take the Wisp. At this point, we don't really need to keep up much, but I'll keep up the Path to Exile just in case of any shenanigans. Alright, F6 here, get back Court Hussar, basically just draw a bunch of cards, and our opponent concedes to that because we're just going off, basically. Sweet! Stabilizing at 1 life there. That was nice. That was nice. I think I like bringing in the Sorcerer Spyglass here. Settle the Wreckage is also interesting, but I think those are the only considerations. I guess a Lone Missionary also helps us block on the ground for a bit. So I like Sorcerer Spyglass naming Aether Vial potentially, but it also could name Ghost Quarters and the like. Settle the Wreckage is okay once they go wide. Lone Missionary is good to save some life in the early game. I don't like that many Spreading Seas in this matchup. So while it does kind of screw with our curve, yeah, and I don't really like Jace in this matchup either. Keep a Spreading Seas because it's a cycle on turn 2. I like Crucible here because they do have a land destruction game plan. And I like our sweepers at 4, and I like our big stuff. So, yeah. I think this is okay. So the reason I like bringing the Sorcerer Spyglass over something like Stony Silence is because Stony Silence is very narrow, whereas Sorcerer Spyglass can still hit their lands. Excuse me, guys. This is a sweet keep. We have a curve for 1, 2, 3, although we probably don't want a 1 right away. Horizon Canopy as their first land means Aether Vial is in, which also means we can Sorcerer Spyglass it. I mean, yeah. All of them is not a bad pickup either. So I'm going to go ahead and probably name Aether Vial with the Sorcerer Spyglass, but there's also the possibility that we want to name like a Ghost Quarter. If we look at our opponent's hand and they have Arbiter plus a Ghost Quarter, that could be a little scary. But our opponent has kept a 1-lander and they have 1 Aether Vial in play. I think Sorcerer Spyglass is pretty good here. Wow. Yeah. Let's go ahead and name Aether Vial. Their hand is a bunch of 2-drops. And they don't have their second land. So if they hit their second land, it's not the end of the world. But now we're making them play fair. And they hit their second land, which is good for them. Great for my opponent. They play their Thalia. I think I'm going to go ahead and fetch here right now. Probably get a Hollowed Fountain. And I like playing Court Hussar here because not only does it dig me, it blocks Thalia pretty well. And we could cut our opponent off of double white. We could take the land. I think we just want the Sun Titan though. That's a good game plan to play towards at this point. As if our opponent's kind of stuck on lands, then this is a good way for us to go over the top. Alright, our opponent hit their 3rd land, so good for them. There's an Arbiter in play. Glad we cracked our fetch earlier. Oh, but I guess they can Path to Exile us now. Oh, they can't, because of, wow, yeah, you don't want to do that, opponent. You made the right call. I think I just want to go and play this Wall of Omens. Just so now if my opponent wants to Path to Exile something out of the way, I will be able to get a land. I can pay for Arbiter with 2 mana here, which is why I didn't play out my Lone Missionary. Looks like they're just going to play their Flicker Wisp out, sure. Sorcerer's Spyglass, okay. Yeah, that gets them out their Blade Splicer right now. That's kind of cool. I think I'm just going to F6 here. I don't... So our opponent still has a Path to Exile in hand. I did cut that out. by accident. I don't think I want to Path to Exile the Flicker Wisp in any way. I think I want to save it for Shalai. Ooh, Smuggler's Copter is pretty good too. But I think again we still name Aether Vial here. Aether Vial is the scariest card my opponent has. Wow. Oh, I can't play it. Oh no, I can't play it. Maybe I go for a land here. Sweet, that's a land. It's an untapped land too. And now at this point, like if my opponent wants to Path to Exile, well, I think I'm okay with that. This is just a bit more blockers in case my opponent just like swings out next turn. Opponent attacks with Flicker Wisp in the air. Those two, sure. I will block with Wall of Omens here. We'll take 3. And we can clean up the board with Supreme Verdict next turn. My opponent plays more things out here. I think I'm in a really good spot. Oh, Smuggler's Copter. Sure. If they have a creature in hand, it does mean that... How greedy can I get with this Supreme Verdict? What are the chances they draw? Yeah, I think I can actually get pretty greedy here. I think I want to get rid of that. Oh, it's a nice card to... Not in the face of Arbiter, but that is a nice card to pick up here. I think we just have like a real chokehold on the game right now. And so if they rev up this Copter, I'm going to be in a really good spot. Alright, that is what I want. And in the beginning of combat, I will Path to Exile that Copter. Oh, I guess I do have to pay 2, right? Which means they can Path to Exile something now if they want to. Sure. So they get their 4th land out of their deck here, which is good for them, for sure. It also means Settle the Wreckage does not line up great against Shalai, which means we might want to wait one more turn for this Verdict. Say okay. Emeria the Sky Rune would be quite a nice pickup here. Alternatively, this turn we could just take a turn off, play Crucible, play the Flooded Strand. Kind of like that. Oh, I guess that does cost 4. Wow, that's so bad. Maybe I just play a natural land, pay for 2. I just don't want to be so stone cold to that Shalai. Stone cold dead to that Shalai. So we can't crack it, but I think it's okay. We'll just hold back here. My opponent's plan here is to just keep playing things into the board. Then we can Verdict. The more we wait, not necessarily it gets worse for us. They do hit a land here. So they have Shalai, Path, plus 2 unknowns. Looks like they're just going to go and attack here. 3 in the air. They might know that we just can't answer this Flicker Wisp right now. And then they're just going to say, okay, we'll answer the board as it is. I dare you. And, well, Blade Splicer, at least we get one more thing with this Verdict. I think at this point, though, it is time to Verdict. Wrath of God. Wrath of God is better than Verdict in this matchup. And that's a Supreme Verdict. Now we can play both of our lands here, crack both of them. Still have a Wrath of God waiting. I guess I could have cracked Vial. Sorry, not cracked Vial. I guess I could have cracked the Flooded Strand and then replayed it from my graveyard. Yeah, that probably would have been a little bit better, right? Opponent wants to rebuild the board here. That's fine. We can Play Sun Titan and rebuild our board. Raven Inspector, sure. Just want to make sure our opponent doesn't play an Arbiter, and then we won't be able to crack our stuff here. Crack a clue. That's a good sign for us. It means they're digging right now. Don't have anything to do with their mana, maybe. Maybe they just don't want to overplay into something. Maybe they want to hold up Path to Exile, which... Oh, right. We know they have a Path to Exile, right? Let's just go ahead and thin our deck from our non-basics. Okay. I think I'm okay playing the Sun Titan here, even though I know it's going to eat a Path to Exile. I think I want to dig for an Emeria out of my deck. So I guess playing a land there before Sun Titan was a mistake. Tension Sphere, Phantasmal Image, Wall of Omens. I guess Wall of Omens gets us deeper to what we want to do. And that's an Emeria. Bam. So it turned out okay, that we couldn't have done it any other way, really. But that Emeria is exactly what we wanted to find right now. Exactly what we were digging for. Our opponent did not use their Path to Exile, which is very interesting. They could have an Arbiter here to go with it. Rest in peace. No. No, opponent. Ah, crap. Alright, so they blink the Vial. Okay. They play their Shalai. Alright, my opponent is rebuilding here. That's pretty good for them. Frustratingly good for them, but it's pretty good. Oh, they have the land for the path. What did they do here? Oh, this is Flicker Wisp coming back into play. They have Arbiter plus Path. I think we still want to name Aether Vial here. Could really use the D-Sphere right about now. Now I feel like there's really no reason to play that. Interesting. There's an argument to swinging here. If my opponent wants to double block, I think that's a good trade for me. Sweet. They take 6. We know our opponent's sitting on another Path to Exile, so we don't want to Field of Ruin them right now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and play this. Target Wall of Omens. Just play the Emeria out. Might as well. I guess it's not like a might as well, but I kind of might as well. The Shalai does protect from Settle the Wreckage. Yeah, we're not in like a lock position anymore, right? We were so close to closing out that game, but that Rest in Peace out of nowhere just really was really rough. If they want to Path to Exile my okay, sure. I'm actually okay with this. Pay for that one. Pay for that one. Say okay. We will go down some life. But we do have this Wrath of God to clean up. Lone Missionary is not a bad play post sweep, right? Not ideal. Wow, it just takes it. They're like, fine. I'll go ahead and clean up the board now. I will use this Field of Ruin in case my opponent does draw something good. And now we go up to 7 life. And we're playing off the top just like our opponent. However, we have a Settle the Wreckage in our hand, which I think puts us in a slightly more advantageous position than our opponent. because we know they don't have Path to Exile anymore. All right, Flicker Wisp, yeah. That's a card. Sure, target their land. Gideon. That is a sweet top deck. Let's go ahead and bash in here for 2. This does put our opponent kind of dead on board next turn, right? If they don't have something. This Lone Missionary's 2 power is relevant. They could blink this Flicker Wisp. Alright. They could also have drawn a Path to Exile. Question is, am I going to play around a path? Detention Sphere. I could just Detention Sphere. If my opponent drew a Restoration Angel here, then I am in a pretty rough spot, I think. Oh no. Why did I say that? Why did I say that? And then they're going to target Gideon? Yep. Yep. Here comes our Gideon back. We'll be able to settle the wreckage, the one that comes to attack it. All right, just draw land one time, opponent. One time. Look at how many we've drawn. Come on, just draw land, please. I think like a Shalai here would be absolutely insane. GG's. Oh my god. That was kind of the edge of our seat there, right? And the thing is, like, we were like, okay, well, we win the game if our opponent doesn't have the Restoration Angel, but then they did have the Restoration Angel, but then we still didn't lose, right? Because we have the settle. If they drew a dud here, then we could animate both Gideon and our guy next turn and attack. We were drawing Detention Sphere. We could have made a similar play to kind of like feel the board, but yeah. That was a pretty sweet game. Thanks so much for watching. That was the 4th match and final one. I think I'm worn out here, but let's go ahead and go to the closing comments in just a second. All right, everybody, welcome back to the closing comments here with Blue-White Emeria Control. Let's go ahead and talk about the deck, right? We played 4 matches, 4 really, really fun matches, close matches, competitive matches, right? So round 1 we were against Tron. We lost 1-2, so 1 game loss, 2 game losses. Oh, sorry, 1 game won, 2 game losses. And I think that matchup like is not favorable, but we have a lot of tools to win that matchup. And as you saw, we were able to win 1 game there as we got all of our lock pieces going. And then even once our opponent kind of answered our lock pieces, they just didn't have any action once they answered our board, right? So then we were just able to kind of just beat them down with like 6 sixes and 2 1s and 3 1s in the air, and Gideon beat down, right? So when that plan doesn't work out, where you lock your opponent out of the game, you can still just get there by being this kind of a bad creature deck, but at the same time, like, all of your creatures did something as they entered the battlefield, which is pretty nice. Point is, I don't think Tron's a favorable matchup to summarize, but I do think we have the tools to win that matchup. It might be like 40-60, 45-55, and it gets better post-board. Anyways, second match was against Jeskai Control, and playing the Mana Denial game was really nice against Jeskai Control. And when you have a more mid-rangey build than standard Blue-White Control, it also means you can kind of go through your deck faster, but also apply pressure faster, and that's what regular Blue-White Control has trouble doing sometimes. So I like this deck's role in the kind of the control mirror more than as if we were Blue-White Control. The Mana Denial played really well. Crucible of Worlds was excellent in both matches against Tron and Jeskai. And it's just an excellent card in general when you need to hit land drops or you need to reuse your land destruction. So in general, I really enjoy Crucible of Worlds. I think that's a great one-of addition into the deck that I never played around with when I played around with the deck in the past. So I really like Crucible of Worlds there. Third match, we played against Soul Sisters. I mean, you know, It's a creature matchup, so that's good for us, but at the same time, they have things like Path to Exile and Rest in Peace, so it was a little bit tricky. However, we did end up getting there, because sometimes Flicker Wisp is just a 3-1 flyer that beats down in the air, and that's good enough. And then fourth match, we were up against Mono White Death and Taxes, or it could have been Eldrazi and Taxes. We're not quite sure, but the point is that we were able to get there. They, you know, have a lot of tools to fight us. As you saw, they had Restoration Angels, they had Aether Vials, they had Shalai. But if you time your sweepers right and you play around as much as you can, while not giving up too much percentage about what you can't beat, then you just are able to get the job done. And Lone Missionary, kind of getting you out of those precarious life totals, is actually really sweet, and it did the same thing against Jeskai. Bringing us up from like 3 life to 7 life, it's suddenly like not just like 2 burn spells or not just 2 Flicker Wisp hits, it's 3. And that's insane. That is just insane to me. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Jace do so much in any of the matchups, but what we did get to see was the sideboard come together. I really like the Settles. I really like Sorcerer's Spyglass. It's almost a card that I want to bring in almost every matchup. What I did miss from the sideboard is some sort of disenchant effect. So it's like a wear tear effect. Maybe we should be playing some number of disenchant instead of the Celestial Purge. I'm not sure. Maybe we just want to play more Detention Spheres, because that card is nice with Sun Titan, and we don't play Snapcaster, so there's no real reason to have our enchantment removal be an instant or sorcery, other than the fact that it's an instant in the sense that you can play it on your turn for cheaper. So I think that's something that should be experimented with, the disenchant effect, because I think there's a lot of decks running Rest in Peace right now, and that is something that we should consider. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching that, you know, either any of the 4 matches, any of the deck check, or any of the closing comments. I really do appreciate it. Again, we upgraded now. We have a microphone. You know, it still takes some getting used to and playing around with this and the settings and things like that. But hopefully the idea is that my voice sounds better and that you hear less of the background and more of my voice and just what's happening in the game. That way you can focus, you can immerse, etc., etc. So please let me know in the comments what you think about that. Again, all these matches are going to be in a single video. So I probably should have said this in the beginning, but in the deck tech or in the description, you can find all the matches. And also, if you like the videos in any way, please consider liking them or subscribing to my channel. I try to make 2 to 3 you know, video series every single week. So if you want to keep up with that, the best way to do that is to subscribe to my channel. Also consider following me on Twitter. You can get a link to that also in the description. And I also post on certain Facebook communities depending on how it relates to those communities. For example, this video will probably go up on the Blue-White X mid-range control community. My Mardu and Pyromancer videos go up there, and then I sometimes even post on the MTG Salvation forums for a related deck. So those are all good ways to find me if for some reason you don't want to subscribe or don't want to follow me on Twitter. That's okay. I don't mind, but at least know that you have tools to find my content. Anyways, again, credit to Fincone on MTG Salvation for this great deck list. I really do appreciate the hard work he's put into this deck. Again, it's really easy for me to come in here and make slight tweaks to the meta, and it's really hard for someone to kind of construct the deck list from scratch. So essentially that's what they have been doing over at MTG Salvation forums, and I do appreciate their effort with that. So with that said, thank you all so much for watching this video series, and stay tuned for more content coming up, hopefully within the next few days. I'll see you guys soon.